to a question?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, do you get start and hope the crowd forms and then like perform better once they all turn up, or do you kind of just like stand there and like and then do the trick of like, oh, come on everyone, come on, crowd around,
right,
then get started?
Look, I've done plenty of shows to nobody.
Yeah.
And you just hope that someone walking past, like even in a venue, will just maybe hear like a lick of music and will be drawn in, and that's what you're sort of hoping for if you haven't done like sort of marketing for your gig or you're not sort of well known. So look, I've done plenty of ghost performances, but you still get paid, so you've got to show up and do it anyway.
100%. I'm just going to double check. Oh shit, we're on the wrong wireless network. I just realised. Which is your one? I'm just bear with us. I'm just going to swap across.
Let me just find the name.
It's this one.
Okay.
Okay, that should be a much better internet connection. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay, so hi to everyone who's tuning in again, who came last week. We had some people contact us about some stuff they wanted us to talk about, and it's been a big week.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening in technology. We're going to talk about some interesting sciencey stuff today as well. Stuff happening in cryptocurrency, stuff still like falling over from everything that happened, I believe, with all the stocks and everything recently. I think everyone's attention is on cryptocurrency and commerce and all that sort of thing. So those effects are still being felt. What else are we feeling?
Some genetics are my specialty, so that's some genetics, and we're going to talk a little bit about COVID, so long COVID and the vaccine, which has just been started to roll out in Australia. But I thought I'd actually start. I didn't realise this. When does autumn start in Australia?
Oh, great.
So we're in autumn now, right?
Are we in autumn now?
It's the 2nd of March.
I'm going to have to Google it. Can I Google it? I don't know the date that it starts.
Oh, okay, well, what are the seasons generally? What's summer?
What are they?
Summer?
Autumn in Australia. When does it start? Temperatures? All right, when does it begin? I'm getting a nice poem. Tourism Australia. Autumn brings cooler days with occasional rain.
It does, but it's not. Okay, my sister says yes, we are in autumn.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
In Australia, we have December, January, February is summer. March, April, May is autumn. June, July, September is winter, and then August. June, July, August, September, October, November is spring. But in the Northern Hemisphere, they don't do it by months.
Oh, because we know they're opposite in the Northern Hemisphere, but so they don't do it by months. So what do they do it by?
They do it by equinoxes.
Oh.
So it's like Easter, Halloween. So spring break doesn't start at the start of the month. It starts on the equinox, which is like Halloween. Is that the spring? No, Easter.
Okay.
Would be their spring starts. And I'm like, people in the Northern Hemisphere are like, yeah, that's normal. I'm like, what the fuck?
What is an equinox?
It's the solstice is the longest day of the year, or the shortest day of the year, and the equinox is halfway between. So it's the most average day of the year.
The most average day of the year.
So December 22nd is the longest day in the Southern Hemisphere, 22nd. So it's like 18 hours of sunlight or something like that, if you're where we are. During the equinoxes, it's like exactly the same amount of sunlight and darkness. So the winter equinox is when days start getting longer after the winter equinox, and days start getting shorter after the summer equinox.
Right. Okay.
And after the solstices, and the equinoxes mark the halfway point between the longest and the shortest days.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that have the possibility to change?
It could. The Earth would have to change though.
Okay,
so if we get hit by a meteorite or something like that, it could change.
So otherwise, the seasons in America will stay consistent to the equinox.
Well, fingers crossed.
To the equinoxi. What's the plural of equinox?
It's kind of like it's. I think it's like matrix or dominatrix is dominatricy. Matrix, matricy, equinoxy. I don't know.
Yeah.
First, my birthday, my sister.
Oh, cool.
So we are in autumn now. We are, but what's interesting is that we're in autumn, but the Northern Hemisphere is not in spring. Europe and USA is technically not in spring.
Okay. All right. So what date would they jump into spring?
Easter.
Easter. Okay. It's strange for me to get my head around. Yeah.
I lived in America and I didn't realize this. But it's only Europe and America do this, and not all of Europe. So, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. Devin, my friend from Florida, are you in? Is it spring over there yet? I'm very curious.
Yeah, because Meow wrote down today seasons of North America, and I was going, what is this? What is this about?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Oh, equinoctials! I love that word.
Thank you.
Is that the real one?
And it is probably the greatest Star Trek commenter on Facebook, so I'm very happy to have the.
And because
equinoctials, here we go.
And equinox is spelled with an X at the end, right?
So we're out of sync with the rest of the world. The rest of the world's out of sync with us. The seasons are not opposite.
Oh, all right. Okay, sort of like miles and meters and kilometers and stuff.
Freedom seasons.
Freedom seasons.
That's it.
What a name.
Yeah, that's it. It's what America's running with. So.
Freedom season.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about first? What was the most exciting thing that kind of happened during the last week? And we might keep some of the more sensitive political things to the later half of this that we might have a quick talk about.
All right. Okay. So I want to talk briefly about Matt Barry. So he is CEO,
yeah.
No, not founder, but CEO, currently a freelancer. The app and service online platform that allows you to basically, do you offer a certain amount of money and then people can sort of bid to get the jobs?
It's Uber for jobs.
It's Uber for jobs, okay, yeah.
I need my windows cleaned. I'm willing to pay $25 and some poor person on Centrelink comes across and washes your windows and takes cash, something like this.
Okay, and all sorts of services it can, from cleaning your windows to
dog walking
to helping you fix your computer, to making a movie, to taking photographs.
And this is very interesting because he reimagined part of his service to, what was it? He's got something where you can pay someone to go to a spot and take a photo.
Yes.
Is that it? That was it, wasn't it?
Yep, I think that's it.
What was your first thought when you read this?
I immediately had, I don't know if this is because I'm a woman, but I had stalker vibes. And I
looked at this and I thought, this is going to be abused straight away.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not go and take a photo like yourself? Why are you sending some random stranger to some address to take a photo? Because it marketed it like it was going to be for real estate.
Yeah, and what other purposes could it be used for?
Stalking.
Other than stalking, why would you want to send someone to a place to take a photo? And please drop that in the comments as well.
Pay them, right? Pay them. Because it's got to be worth your while.
Okay, so say I'm in Australia and I want a photo taken in San Francisco. And maybe, I just thought school or university project. I don't know.
Because you have Google Maps, so you can basically see what's there, right? So it has to be something that's like time sensitive. Plus, you're not going to be paying them $2, right? How much would you pay someone for this?
Maybe it depends. Do you want to? What's
how much would someone have to pay you to get off your butt and go and take a photo
Good question.
of a random house?
Okay, where is the house? How much do I have to spend on petrol?
Yeah.
I guess I'd factor that in. But say it was a house just down the road from me. I'll take $50.
Yeah, so I'll say like $20 to $50.
Yeah.
So it's not a small amount of money, right? Yeah. The person has to have serious motivation. But why are they taking a photo?
Perhaps for news and media. Could that be another thing?
We already have paparazzi, right? And they're going to charge a lot more.
They're going to charge a lot more.
So
maybe you're like, okay, I want to write a story about this new house that's opening, in this country, and it's interesting. Can you go take a photo of it? That's I can see that as being a good thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, could this be abused? Could people just go and take photos of, people's homes who don't want their photo of the home taken off? Yeah.
So just read some of the comments. So we've got private investigators are basically like this, right?
Yeah.
And generally they're doing something to try and find out something. They're essentially legal professional stalkers.
Yeah, they are legal professional stalkers, but are they within the law? Yeah, because it's legal, right?
Most of the time they're legal. Like I think they don't want to. They have a license to go and kind of do this.
Yeah. Okay.
Current Affair would probably go and look for some dodgy tradies. right?
Ooh, all right. Yeah.
So,
Or Street View, remote monitoring of a rental business. That's not a bad idea.
Could this be abused by a landlord to go and spy on their tenants?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like abusive power reasons.
Only abuse.
Yeah, we see abuse.
So,
checking up on stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, none of it feels good. It's all sort of people in power, or people who shouldn't have power, maybe.
It's like a secret shopper. You know, they have these secret shoppers that go in and like monitor, but all of it's monitoring and surveillance, right? None of it seems legitimate. And you wonder, did he think about this before he started, and then marketed it as something that's like legitimate? Be like, oh no, it's for rental properties, but he knows like the people who are actually going to pay for this probably have some nefarious intent, but I can market it a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder a little bit if he wants, does he want attention to be brought to, is this going to bring attention to the app and people using it as well? Checking up on staff when tracking a sickie, yeah.
Yeah, basically all of this is surveillance, right? Now, generally in Australia, we don't really like mass surveillance, but we still push it through. And we'll talk a little bit about this. So we had the AA bill go through, which was essentially government surveillance a couple of years ago, basically pushed forward in the matter of national security. So you wonder, are Australians more kind of compliant and pliable now that we've had some legislation go through that can do things like basic facial surveillance, some basic internet monitoring, similar to like some other countries have this stuff, but only very light. But you wonder, they call it scope creep, where basically, creep in general is what they call it. So you see like, this isn't taking away your freedoms. We're just going to allow photographers to come and photograph you from the street because it's a public space. And then it's like, well, maybe we'll just put a camera on every corner, and then you can just buy the footage, and the government gets it for free, and then all of a sudden we'll just put a camera in everybody's home.
And can we just go back to the law? So it's the AA law. What do you know what that stands for?
AA bill, access and something bill. And basically it was put forward to be kind of like, we want to monitor crime and stop terrorists, but it actually just kind of gave government a backdoor into all the computers and Facebook. They can just get access to the messages and all this. It was pretty hardcore surveillance, but it got pushed through because they basically made out to Labor that this was Liberals were in charge, and they said to Labor, the left wingers, well, if you don't push it through, you don't care about national security.
Right.
But it was actually about surveillance, not necessarily about looking at threats from outside. It's more about looking at threats from inside, but it erodes civil liberties at the same time. Now, doesn't China have huge surveillance? So you lived in China, which is a country that has quite a lot of surveillance.
Yeah, and Peter Atkinson, China has huge surveillance, and for that reason, I always felt really safe. So when you're walking around the streets, their levels of crime are super low. Like the tea scam is the most well-known crime towards foreigners, where at a tourist spot you might be charmed by a person and brought to their tea shop and then charged expensive prices. But I was in a city that I wasn't necessarily very familiar with. I was living there, I was walking around at all times of the day and night, and I always felt incredibly safe, and that was because of mass surveillance. Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't that?
Did you ever feel like the government might misuse that? Like if I went there, I'd be worried that maybe I'd do something that'd be taken out of context, or they'd look at my history and say, why are we researching laws in China? You're trying to break them, right? Or something like this.
Well, I think that everyone in China knows that everything's being surveilled all the time. So it's sort of part of the experience of living there.
Wow.
The Assistance and Access Act. The Assistance and Access Act, allows law enforcement and security agencies to seek assistance from the full scope, of companies that supply communication services and devices in Australia.
That was important as well, devices. So they could ask Samsung or Apple, like, we want access to break into the phones, or monitor messages that are coming through, because we can't have like wiretaps anymore. There's no wires.
There's no wires anymore. Right.
Yeah, so they want digital taps. They already kind of have them, but they wanted to do it kind of without having to go to court, without these types of things where your civil liberties get eroded little bit by little bit, so they don't have to ask for permission.
Are they allowed to force you to unlock your phone?
That's really interesting. So in America, so as like everyone who's on this stream probably knows, I have microchips. I can use one of my microchips to unlock my phone.
Wait, how many do you have?
One.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
2.
1, 2. Oh, you've got 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
These 2 are reprogrammable. Thing is, I can use a microchip to unlock my phone. Now, you wouldn't think there's much difference between me using a microchip to unlock my phone or using my fingerprint or a passcode to unlock my phone. They all seem like the same thing.
They do.
In America, the 4th Amendment actually protects freedom of thought, which means if I have a passcode, it's protected because it's an idea inside my head. But a key is not, which means my fingerprint is considered a key, and that's not protected under the legislation. Is a microchip? No one really knows. It's probably the same as a fingerprint, but it's never been checked in court.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a future cyborg legal case to have happen.
Legislation around that.
And one of the things we have to think about when we create technologies like this is what would happen under these circumstances and these situations, because it hasn't been tested. So anyone who embraces this technology is actually a pioneer in the field, and when they think about getting it, they should think about these things, like what would happen if I got caught up in something or I got forced to use it to unlock my phone. Before you do it, you should kind of think, I can't switch this off. If I was compelled by a police officer to touch it to my phone, if I said no, would I be breaking the law?
So obviously you've had thoughts about this.
Yes.
What are you feeling about these things?
Call my fucking lawyer.
Call my
Straight up.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything or answer anything until I've spoken to legal advice, because someone who's got a PhD or just, my lawyer went to, just got a bioethics master's from Harvard. He'll know a lot better than I am. Are they, trespassing on my property because they're forcing me to use something from inside my body? In which case,
your body.
Right, they're trespassing on my personal sovereign space. Like, there's lots of interesting ways you can spin this to make interesting arguments. Speaking of which, this actually leads in.
Yeah.
Are you going to get the vaccine?
Me?
Yes.
I believe so.
Do you think the government should be able to force people to get vaccines?
Oh, difficult. I don't know.
In essence, trespassing on their personal space.
I'm not sure. I have to think about it. What do you think?
I'm a fan of mandatory vaccines.
I think for people who've experienced things like long COVID, it's difficult to know, right? Long-term impacts of COVID. We're still studying it. Hold on. I heard they have facial recognition based on your credit. You can pay more or less. That's a more complex issue. We will go back into that another time.
Let's actually write that down for future China social credit. Maybe even next week.
I'd be interested to know where an implant lies in that situation from Morris.
Yeah, so Morris is a multiple implantee as well.
Oh, a multiple implantee. It's such a cool name.
Nice we've actually got some of the same implants.
Oh, okay.
So now Katina Michaels is like the person in Australia. She's at Wollongong University talking about security with respect to implantable devices, and she's an expert in this. We don't know. We've had, like, Morris and I have had conversations about this. Amal, who makes our chips, Tim, all these guys from Grindhouse and Dangerous Things. Nobody really knows, but we try and think about, like, well, what is it similar to? Okay, it's similar to, like, a key or a fingerprint. But it's like, okay, well, it's a fingerprint's on the outside of your body. What about a fingerprint on the inside of your body?
It's weird.
That can speak to it. So, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
But vaccines are actually a technology that goes into your body and rewrites a lot of the time, or tells your body to manufacture something that's IP for somebody else. Israel passed law of sharing of data of unvaccinated. Oh, interesting. So you can share. With Israel passed a law, basically, that they can share the data of the unvaccinated people in their country with other countries.
Right,
so
and that's going to restrict travel, definitely, in the future. There's going to be the unvaccinated, you can't travel, and then the vaccinated, you can.
And you can't get welfare in Australia if you have unvaccinated children.
Right.
Now, I don't think this will happen with COVID, because COVID looks like it doesn't really affect kids, except in a few cases. One interesting thing, talking about long COVID, we're going to smush a few of these topics together, I think. Long COVID, there's a lot of kids getting psychosis from COVID.
Right.
It's like more common in children that after they get COVID, they come out anorexic, depressed, suicidal, and it happens quite quickly after they have COVID. And they think this has something to do with the way that COVID works. So we talked a bit briefly, I think, in one of the past 2 episodes about this. The little balls on the end of COVID attack the ACE2 receptors, right? Angiotensin something or other receptors. Basically, what we need to know is there's a lot in the lungs, a lot in the nerves, and a lot on the testes. So we would expect psychiatric conditions, respiratory conditions, and infertility, potentially.
And I am really interested in long COVID, and I actually monitor the subreddit like COVID long haulers, because I want to know.
COVID long haulers?
Yeah, I'm interested in the experience of the people who are going through it, what they post about, what they talk about. And actually the symptoms are very similar to chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis, post-viral syndrome, and which can be quite different for everybody. So some people have and this is what I'm seeing as well in the threads, people have like chronic headaches these days. Some people can't regulate their temperature. Some people have cold symptoms. A lot of people have post-exertional malaise, being they can do a certain amount of activity, then afterwards they can't. Brain fog is what I think lies within the realm of psychosis. It's not the same, but it's similar neurological condition and mental impairment, which sort of it's like that you've got no energy to think. It's like you're looking at a sentence but you can't read it, which is of course going to impact people's ability to work and to their life quality. And this isn't something that currently has a cure.
And may never have a cure.
Let's really hope it will, because it's affected so many people worldwide. So look, it might never, but I'm really hopeful that it will have a cure.
It's interesting because this is the long tail. That after everyone's like, okay, I'm not going to die from COVID. And that's a big thing that a lot of millennials are saying. It's like, well, death isn't the only outcome of COVID. Like 30% of people have some long-term condition. And that takes a huge toll on countries, right?
Yeah.
Like in world wars especially, they prevent you dropping weapons that deform or partially injure or like basically rob the people of the ability to work. It's like lasers, right? Abandoned war, because once you're blind, you can't work. So you end up creating a toll on a country that they can never recover from.
Wait, so they're banned from doing that?
Basically, if you make weapons, they have to kill people.
Oh.
You can't make landmines because then you have a whole society full of amputees, and then that creates a huge burden for that country going forward.
Is this a law, or is this like
Geneva Convention is basically designed to say you can't just maim people.
You cannot.
You got to kill them. Right? It's like healthy or dead. Those are your options. Like you have to try and minimize maiming.
Minimize maiming.
It's what because.
But how is you can maim people through shooting them? Like, isn't that the same?
Well, you can't. A gun is designed to kill, is what they say. Mm-hmm. You can't design something just to maim.
And a landmine isn't landmine isn't designed to kill?
Exactly right. It's designed to blow off limbs, legs,
okay.
and incapacitate people. Or lasers are meant to just make it so you can't fire guns anymore, right? They're like, oh no, you can't do that. You can't just burn people because they'll survive, and then once all these burn victims, the country will never recover. We can only kill people. And it's like, well, fuck. COVID is essentially this random scattergun that's creating huge burden on the healthcare system for a long time, which is like, I'm a socialist. I'm like, yes, let's look after these people long term. But a country like America that doesn't have socialized healthcare, like they're fucked for the long term.
That's really hard, yeah.
Right? Well, they basically have to either bring in a socialized healthcare system or work out some way to look after these people. Otherwise, the whole country's going to fall apart.
For sure. And while I've been paying attention to COVID long haulers, and I mean, yeah, you can jump on the Reddit as well, subreddit, and just have a look what people are going through. But there has been a lot of new allocation of funding towards post-viral illnesses, which is good, which means that more money and attention is going towards cures and diagnostic markers. But if you do see people with long COVID or people who haven't really recovered, and they're like, I can't run like I used to, I had breathing issues, believe them, it's absolutely happening.
What's interesting about it is that there's a lot of like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and these types of things. Like they've been around for ages, but then doctors are like, well, are they real? Like I don't doubt this person's feeling pain, but I don't know any cause for it. It's just broadly, this person has no energy. This person has has lots of pain. But like I know people who've got this and it's real, like they were fine and then all of a sudden they weren't. But maybe the cause of this is all viral. So what we're seeing now is an experiment playing out that can inform us about conditions people had before. It's like, oh, it's actually a certain type of virus. Maybe it's coronavirus. Maybe it's a respiratory viruses in general cause this thing. So hopefully if there is a cure, it will cure other things from before.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is the current treatments that have been prescribed to people for so long. And by the way, in general, GPs only have about an hour of their degree dedicated to these sorts of diseases because they're just so unknown. If you go to a GP, they'll be like, good luck, we don't have anything about it.
They're a general practitioner.
Yeah,
they're meant to basically refer you on to
yeah.
someone, but they don't refer you on to a virologist.
No, and the funny thing is, so the basic prescription of treatment around these post-viral illnesses for the longest time has been CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is just for the whole illness. Oh, you're having chronic headaches every day. You need to think more positively.
No.
And I'm not kidding. And it has been a terrible, it's been just a horrible, I feel like, abuse of the medical system, just that this has been allowed.
Do you think the doctors are skeptical of the condition?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that things change within science all the time, and medical science, and but previous to COVID, there wasn't a cure for lung scarring. There now is. So I think these things change all the time, and these things become clear all the time. With a lot of these illnesses, people go, "Oh, it's anxiety," and it generally isn't. And I feel strongly about that.
The cause and the effect mixed up. They're like, "Oh, it's anxiety," but the anxiety is caused by the fact that you can't get out of bed or you've got chronic pain.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. It's caused by the fact that no one believes that you're ill.
Yeah.
Things are making up, and your loss of life quality. Let's jump back into the comments.
I saw it interestingly. In my psychology class, he goes, every time I see a house on fire, there's a fire truck out the front. Therefore, fire trucks cause house fires. Right? So, but we see this with this, right?
Yeah.
Every time someone's like can't get out of bed, they're really anxious. But it's anxiety causing the problem.
That's so funny.
So Liz said, given all the personal data that's been collected through COVID apps, will it be easy for governments to make vaccination a mandatory condition in future of things like access to public transport and interstate travel? Entry to large scale. Okay, yeah. So this is similar to this the China Social Credit app, right? Which is the basic based on things that you do or don't have or do, restricts what type of activities you might be able to do or not do.
Well, that hasn't necessarily been rolled out in that way yet, so we can't really say anything about that. But I'm just wondering, for example, the New South Wales, services app, which you use to check in all the time. I wonder if that'll be used in the future. Look, maybe not.
So part of it is about how the data is collected. So do they know? Well, do they anonymize it, right? So do they know it's Lucy, or do they know it's like person X1 checked in here?
Right, but you do put your name in, don't you?
But they can still anonymize the data, and then they can say, "Oh, okay, you know what? Like Fox News, or Fox Stadium, whatever it is, I know Acer Arena. Here's a list of the phone numbers of people. We're not going to give you their names or something, so they can pseudonymize it, right? Or say we're going to send out an email to everyone, but no one's actually going to know whether that person and their identifying information is connected with where they were."
Okay, I so get what you're saying. Yeah. Let's really hope that whatever happens in the end, these coders are very ethical, and whoever's the management is ethical about what happens.
Yeah,
because it could. I don't know. It could happen.
So what is it happening in Europe? Because they have GDPR. So do you know GDPR?
Oh, what is that?
It's basically so you know how you have to click on I accept the cookies on this webpage.
Yeah.
That came about because of GDPR.
No, I avoid that one. I just leave the really big window at the bottom, and I just read in a really small amount of text. So I'm like, I will not. I don't want to click it.
There's a lot of decisions to make when you go to the webpage. Do I accept? I don't know.
Every time you go on the Guardian website, I go into the settings, and it's like you can have these cookies and not these ones.
Yeah.
It's a hassle. Anyway.
Yeah. It is. It's too much to think about. I don't know whether I accept or not.
I know, you just give in after a while. Okay, fine, just have my details. They're persistent, aren't they?
Because they're trying to protect your data. That's Europe went, you know what, everyone's being tracked. They should at least know they're being tracked. So now all these websites are like, PS, we're tracking you. Can you just click that, you acknowledge we're tracking you? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
Right, so what do you do?
It depends on how much real estate the screen is taken up by.
How much real estate?
Sometimes if I'm like, I really trust them, I'm like, yeah, fine, track me. I don't mind being tracked as long as the payoff is good enough. If it means I get to read the news article, or if they're just going to advertise to me, I want custom ads that I'd rather get custom ads for stuff I care about rather than being like, do you want sports ads? I'm like, I don't want sports ads. Do I want ads for technology? Yeah, I'd like that. So I don't mind so much. I guess it's like, what are the consequences of being tracked? That's what we're always thinking about. So Europe's like, well, you've got to kind of let the people know what the consequences are, and they have to accept it, right? But with the COVID app, there's no real consequences. Like, we got to do it because we say, well, you know, I'm a venue, I'm going to scan in because they've asked me to. Some places it's mandatory, like you have to before you, but that's the price of going to a bar. And you go, well, okay, that's fine, because what's the thing is, if someone here gets COVID, I want to know because I want to protect my family.
Yeah.
But it starts to get a difference when it's like, okay, well, what's if I'm vaccinated, what does that mean, right? That means that I'm less likely to get it, but does that mean that I then, if I can just show that I'm vaccinated, I can just have something on my screen which is green, maybe I don't have to give up my personal information to a venue then. Right? Or if I travel to another country, I can just show that it's green, but they don't have to track me. But maybe they have to track me if I'm unvaccinated. Or is it just going to be another level of tracking?
So it seems like this is just going to get harder, isn't it? It's just all going to become more complex over time. Whereas now I feel like, you know, I scan in, I feel like it's for the public good, you know, we're helping people know where people have been, that's fine.
There was a lot of reticence when it got introduced. You had to run it 24/7. Right? I didn't like that.
I was suspicious too. I was like, do I want to be given my location? But now I'm like, yeah, I do for this instance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was difficult in Australia at first.
I think checking in though was quite good because it says, you don't have to monitor how I got there. You have to know where I've been.
Totally.
Because they were worried that if you spent more than 15 minutes with someone, that was a high likelihood of passing it on, right? But it was more like if you're on a bus with someone.
Right, yeah.
You could exchange around the bus because it's closed air. But if you were going to the beach, the chance of you getting it's a zip because all the air is being circulated. The chance of a viral particle landing on your mouth is zero.
Right. Well, what about in the water? If you're swimming in the water at the beach,
safe.
It's pretty safe.
Yeah. Also, vaccine. I don't want to forget. I just want to cover it briefly. I'm very pro-vaccine.
Yeah. So you'll get the vaccine.
I'll get the vaccine, but I like the Pfizer vaccine.
Why? Oh, this is very interesting. Why do you like that one?
So the Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective, which means that 1 in 20 people won't get good immunity to it, to COVID, right? That's pretty good odds.
Yeah.
95%, 1 in 20. Yeah, I'm confident I'm going to be the 1 in 19. And if everybody gets it, we should be safe. 95% is herd immunity. But the AstraZeneca vaccine is only 60 to 94% effective with an average, I think, of around 80%. Now that's not so good. That means 1 in 5 people isn't immune. Which is, when you think about that, I know 5 people, one of us is not going to be immune. In a household, on average, one person is not going to be immune. That's not enough to really make a big difference, right?
I think it's still enough to make a big difference.
Well, you'll still have pockets of COVID potentially,
pockets,
right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, 95% means that even if someone gets it, they're not going to spread it. Right? So German measles, which is rubella, is more infectious than COVID. On average, 95%, you never get like big outbreaks until it drops below like around 80%. You'll get outbreaks. We see this in Byron Bay, right?
Right.
And northern beaches where the mums are like, oh, I don't know whether I want to vaccinate my kid. I just think that Pete Evans has some credibility. That's when you see actual outbreaks starting to happen, right?
Yep.
But above 95%, you get herd immunity. There's enough fire breaks that it never kind of gets going. And that's what we need for COVID.
Yeah. I mean, it's still either way good to get one of them, right?
Something is always better than nothing.
Yeah.
If you have an option, why not just get the good one?
What are we getting in Australia?
I think we paid for AstraZeneca, but we're also getting the Pfizer ones because we take public health pretty seriously generally as a rule in Australia.
I feel like everyone watching the stream is now like, okay, Pfizer, where do I sign up?
Pfizer. No, get the good vaccine and call your local MP.
Can you get both? And will it be okay?
No. Maybe, but you probably shouldn't.
Because wasn't there the case recently, the old couple who kind of got 6 doses at once, and they're still alive, I think?
4 times more immune from COVID. Honestly, if you get 4 times, it's probably not going to make any difference. If anything, it probably will actually make you more resistant to COVID. You're only getting such a small dosage anyway.
Right.
And the way it works is they just take part of the virus and tell your body just to make that and make immunity just to that. And it should give you protection against the different strains as well, which is really good. And we might need to get it like, once a year or something like the flu vaccine, but I already get the flu vaccine every year. They'll just whack it in there, and hopefully we all want to go back to life as normal. I'm really for the vaccine. Things like should we monitor people who are unvaccinated? Oh, that's a tricky one. Maybe we might have a think about that and talk about it next week if people are keen.
Because what if there are some people who absolutely just can't get it for whatever reason, and then they're no longer allowed to travel or to go to events? It's difficult, isn't it? Oh, and we've got some comments about we
actually had a whole heap of people. So
guys, we just like to talk a lot, but we really mostly appreciate your comments.
Correct. If you can break one of these factors, you often cure the condition.
Oh, James White, fibromyalgia. Yeah, tried depression, muscle pain, fatigue. Do you know much about that, James White?
Also, this topic is by Industrial, my favorite brand. I found out about them while I was in Las Vegas. I met some hackers, and they're all wearing these cool shirts, and they all turned out to be the same brand. I absolutely love them.
Oh, what is the brand?
Industrial.
My
favorite brand.
Industrial. This brand is Uniqlo.
Yeah.
You may not have heard of Uniqlo before.
That's it.
Let me tell you about it.
You're wearing Uniqlo. How do you say it?
Uniqlo.
Is it Chloe? It's a Q, so I'm really quite sure.
Yeah, Well, how else would you pronounce it?
How do you pronounce it in China? Uniqlo.
Uniqlo. It's funny because in China, instead of Supreme, the brand Supreme is really popular. They say Super Me. Because they sort of, a lot of people think that's how you say it.
Interesting.
Even though it's still spelled Super, they go, oh, Super Me. Because English is not their main language, so they but it's really cute. I think it's really sweet. Super Me.
Super Me. You need a cookie phone.
A cookie phone. What's a cookie phone?
Please tell us more.
Close eyes open. I love your name.
When you provide names and geolocation data, it would all be potentially accessible under public health emergency regs by authorized users in public agencies. So one of the things as well, if we just accepted that we're all tracked, right?
Yeah.
Like what did you call it in China where it's super convenient?
Henfangdian. It's so convenient.
Maybe we just be like, okay, let's fucking forget privacy. Let's just make we can find out who's vaccinated, who's not, why they've said they shouldn't be. Like, a lot of people aren't going to be able to get vaccinated, and we should allow, it's our responsibility as people that can, if you can, to get vaccinated to protect them, right? And I don't really think that conscientious objection, I don't want the vaccine, is really a good enough reason. Because you're essentially becoming a weapon, right?
You are becoming a weapon.
You're a bioweapon.
A bioweapon.
That's
wild. Because you could go anywhere and infect people, and especially people at risk. And
hypothetical scenario. I'm like, fuck boomers. I want a house.
Okay.
I fly to America.
Okay.
I go and lick all the public spaces until I get COVID.
Licks them all.
And then I fly back to Australia. The second I think I'm infected, try and see all the quarantine, try and get past the tests, and then go and cough in as many public places as possible. Try to infect lots of people to buy your bioweapon. Right?
You're a bioweapon.
Or I can get someone to post me COVID, deliberately infect myself, run around the northern beaches and infect as many people as I want, right? Basically, you're a bioweapon, right? You're a gun. And you're firing randomly. But the thing is, it's like
firing COVID particles.
You are
wild.
And especially when you're in a nursing home. So for example, when I was in someone's will, I don't advocate doing any of this, by the way. This is just how you could misuse the pandemic for personal gain, which is why I'm on this thing anyway, talking. How would you abuse it, right? Imagine if my grandma was in a nursing home. I was in her will, and I'm like, can I hurry up? I want to move into this big mansion that she owns. I get someone to post me from America. That would get straight through customs, go and cough on her, infect a whole bunch of people, crash the property market, get all my inheritance, and I could be like, well, I don't know where it came from. I just got infected by COVID.
So could any disease, having any infectious disease, could you be a bioweapon?
100%. Right?
So when you're sick, you're a bioweapon.
Yeah. Weaponized typhoid Mary. Basically, so we've talked about this before in biohacking circles. What about if during an Ebola outbreak you just deliberately flew over there, got contaminated, and then just ran around airports to create as a terrorist? You don't need a lab, you don't need all this fancy equipment, and this is why we need to up things like biosecurity. I think it's why we probably need to track things like vaccinations, or there's a lot of plausible deniability if you get a disease during a pandemic that you can do a lot of damage with if you're not careful.
How else can we up biosecurity? What are your thoughts?
So DARPA, which is Defense Advanced Research Projects Association in America, who invented the internet basically, and they're basically a wing of the government that's interested, has been investing a lot of money into researching how to modulate our immune system in real time.
Wow.
And DARPA always does these things where they're like, oh, and here's a really cool way of defense. But what is defense, right?
What is defense in the body?
What we're doing for a country. Like, what's our defense force doing?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
They're like guns and planes, but generally they're like offense as well as defense, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I say a defense thing, I'm like, how could this be used as a weapon?
Of course, right.
So if you had the ability to do this, you could essentially create a new virus, immunize all your soldiers. The virus magically springs up in another country, everyone there dies, and then your soldiers go in with the vaccine because they're immune to it, right?
Because you called it, what is something, the immune system in real time? What was the
Modulating.
word? Modulating.
The immune system.
So you could modulate it for the worse.
Vaccines against anything that you can just dial up on your iPhone. Oh, I need to be immunized against this, and you could just get a swab from someone, put it in your phone, and it could dial in and say inject yourself, and then you'd be immune against this contagion. And they'll say, oh yeah, this is really good because we can go in and protect everyone and save them. But maybe if you have the cure, you could go in and actually not that anyone's done this, but it would be a very clever way of taking over a country.
Yeah, I guess it's always good to look at both sides, isn't it? How things can be used for things. Yeah. All right. Plus, back to the vaccine. Plus the
Pfizer is cool by liquid nitrogen.
So it looks so much cooler when they pull it out. That's really important, isn't it? If it looks cool, it's pretty much going to be the most effective.
I want the one that looks like Terminator, right? I invested in Moderna. They say nice things. I think the Moderna one was kind of cool.
Right.
I know some people actually in Australia who are on the Moderna trial. But Pfizer's the one I love the best. That's the one I've read most about. It's very elegant. It's all safe. I'm happy to read about other ones if people want and give them my verdict next week.
So would you say Moderna or AstraZeneca?
Both of those I haven't read enough about to make a verdict. Yeah. Pfizer, I like Pfizer.
So say I get signed up for Moderna or AstraZeneca, and I go in and have it, and I'm like, oh, I really wanted Pfizer though. And later on, obviously it's more available later on, and I can go get it. So I'm not going to be more
protected.
Maybe
you are, but the immune system is we don't really understand how it works. We know that if we challenge the immune system with certain things present, we make an antibody response. But it's more an art than a science.
Art than a science. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we're still learning about it.
The mRNA vaccines are closer to a science.
Yeah.
But why don't we just why don't we just design antibodies for the thing? Because we don't really know. We kind of use the body's immune system to generate, these antibodies. The thing is, it could make you more resistant. But it could also increase the chance of autoimmune conditions. It could be too close and it won't actually make a new one because it might kind of attach to it and say that's good enough.
Could we witness whether or not it's working, whether it's attached or not, at some point down the line?
Yeah, you can. So you know how a pregnancy test works?
No.
Basically, it's an antibodies against something in your body,
Antibodies, right? Okay.
What we do, though, is antibodies, they're kind of like a Y shape, right? And they have these little grabby hands on here.
Okay.
They grab the viral particle.
Okay, yeah.
And they're always the same. So they'll grab two viral particles. Right?
Okay.
But then the back end of the virus, the back end of the antibody, kind of has the instructions on what to do with it now it's grabbed it. Okay. So it might find more of the antibodies and make a huge molecule until it precipitates out, so it's no longer soluble in water. And then you can pee it out, or you can excrete it out other ways. The other thing it can do is it can actually signal the body's other immune cells to come and attack and eat that thing, macrophage or something like that. But one of the things we can do is we can modify the tail. So we can be like, okay, I want to put a particle on there that we can see, a fluorescent molecule or a dark color like metal or something like that. And then on a pregnancy test, all the dots line up and you can see, that's kind of black.
Okay.
So what we're actually seeing is tens of millions of antibodies all lined up that we can actually see with the naked eye. Yeah. Fluorescence is a good one. Put black light under it, it glows. It's easy to see glowing things. Yeah. The other thing we can do is we can actually put an enzyme on there that catalyzes a reaction.
An enzyme that catalyzes a reaction.
So
Alright.
what one antibody bound to one viral particle can activate something that changes the color of the solution it's in over time.
Yeah.
So we can basically amplify the signal.
Okay.
And that's how that's broadly how you would design an antigen test for COVID.
An
So
antigen test.
there's antibody tests, there's antigen tests.
Mm-hmm.
The antigen tests would work like a pregnancy test.
Okay.
Broadly. We won't go into that.
Okay, that's really interesting though.
Hi guys, super me, super you.
Hey, super me, super you.
A burn phone for cookies. Oh, okay, so you could say, I agree, and you chuck the phone away and they can't track you anymore.
Or maybe just an app. I don't know.
Matt
Cool.
Barry, get onto it. Maybe we could have it so that someone comes to your house and they, instead of taking a photo, they click the button for you so you're not the one who accepted it. Because it's not you on your computer, it was someone else said accept cookies.
And for anyone that's tuning in and wondering what we're talking about with that, that was just earlier that we were talking about Matt Barry, the CEO of Freelancer. He created recently a job within the app where you can hire someone to take a photo of anyone's home or site in the world.
You give them an address.
An address, yeah.
And they go and take a photo.
And we were talking about, could that be abused? How many ways could that be abused?
Can you say wait until someone comes out and then take a photo of them?
Wow. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's use that. Let's do it. Okay, we need a drinking game where you have to take a drink when Meow hypothetically explodes and you buy a terrorism drink.
Hypothetically. So hypothetically, if we put this in the water supply, right?
I'm terrified every time he talks about it.
But honestly, I don't know why we don't give biologists more money. Keep them happy. They're scary.
We have to keep them happy.
We haven't fucking touched anything on our list of things.
I think we can even touch them next week. I'm loving these comments.
Yeah, pandemic happens about once every 100 years. Humans being around for about 300 years.
Wow, 121k cases.
Last pandemic humans ever experienced.
Hold on, the camera's just we're out of
focus. Do we think this is the last pandemic?
I'm just trying to. Will this refocus the camera?
I don't know. Maybe the camera's been having a drinking game every time Meow poses a hypothetical biological threat.
I think it's afraid. All right. I think the quality's a little bit different, but don't know how to fix that. Sorry.
I don't
know. Could we turn off and turn back on again?
Let's give it a couple of minutes. As long as the sound is good, it might refocus.
Yeah, cool.
Do we think this is the last pandemic? We talked about this a tiny little bit before.
Okay, me knowing nothing, not being a scientist, I don't think so. What do you think?
Not a chance. There's more pandemics ahead. Mm-hmm. But one thing Peter has said is I can see you fine. One thing Peter has said is actually very true. Last large pandemic, which is that, so about every 100 years we get serious, Spanish flu was the last one, the plague, these types of things. But something is different now, and it also touches on what he says, which is technology and globalization is different. So these things, the really big pandemics like Spanish flu and stuff, it's only possible because of worldwide travel. So we've got ships going around the world. Now we've got planes, but we're increasingly globalized in a way we haven't been before. So we've seen a whole heap of almost pandemics. So what have we had this century? So we've seen in China, what do we have?
Currently.
What if we had this century? SARS?
Oh, right. Okay, SARS, right.
Swine flu. Avian H5N1.
Okay.
Middle East, we saw MERS.
Okay.
We've got now H5N8 in Russia. We've got another swine flu in China. It's these things are this didn't come out of nowhere, right? But the problem is that because people are fuck it. People are saying I don't care about COVID, I want to stay traveling. I reckon we're going to see more, and they'll only stop once we all upload ourselves to the internet. And until then, they will happen with increasing frequency.
But then there'll be computer viruses.
There will be computer viruses. For a really good one, read a book called Vert by Jeff Noon.
Vert by Jeff Noon. What is the content of that novel?
He talks about brain upload viruses, and there's another one called Glass House by Who did Glasshouse? It's by the same author as Accelerando.
Imagine finally being uploaded and you're like, yay, I've become an AI, I've been uploaded, and you've just got this weird code that makes you keep hearing the same music over and over.
And then charging you royalties.
Oh,
You listen to Grimes. You owe her 1 cent. You owe her 1 cent. That's
the potential.
Maybe it's just brain fog. Maybe it's like a long COVID. You have like a long upload and new stuff. So speaking of Grimes did something interesting. So you're a musician. Have you heard of NFTs? That's this big
NFTs. All right. So they're a type of cryptocurrency.
That's right.
They're a fungible or fungible? Fungible token.
Not mushrooms, not fungi.
They're not fungi. And so what do I know about them? As a musician, I believe that, and looking at what Grimes did,
so what did she do? Yeah.
So my understanding is that, and she's not the first to do this because other musicians have done this, she sold some video and music artwork through which cryptocurrency?
I think it's broadly on the Ethereum blockchain, right?
Okay.
But it's utilizing another site. But basically, she tokenized it, which is something that Ethereum does. So I think it's like an ERC number token, which is basically a protocol to say we can encapsulate a certain amount of data into a token.
Okay.
Now I think about it like this, and the non-fungible bit means that different tokens are worth different amounts. So if you and I both have a dollar coin, they're worth the same amount. We can exchange them. In fact, it's the foundation of how money works. I exchange $5 with you, you exchange $5 with someone else, and it's the same value chain. And inflation happens slowly, and everyone's aware of it, that every year it's 2% difference, right? But realistically, you should be able to exchange it for roughly the same amount. $50,000 will be worth $50,000 in a week's time. Yeah. If you don't have this, your country falls apart, right?
Yeah.
But non-fungibility basically says, well, okay, well, it's a bit like barter. We might imagine this like, actually, I had something like this. I fixed Sam Neill from Jurassic Park's computer.
Oh, cool.
And he paid me in $50 bills.
How did he, first of all, find you?
Someone asked, can someone fix someone's computer? I'm like, I'll fix someone's computer.
Oh, cool.
And then like, he's famous. And I guessed it was either a sports person or actually Sam Neill.
How did you know he was like, he's bad with computers?
How many famous Australian actors are there really?
Yeah.
Not many. I kind of worked it roughly out. I think I might have known his name was Sam.
Yeah.
Anyway, he paid me $50 bills, but to me, they were worth more than $50.
Because of the emotional value.
Jurassic Park money, right?
Jurassic Park money.
So
you could have just got an autograph, maybe. Maybe that would be a token.
I want to just, they were precious to me, but they were $50 that were worth not $50, right?
Yeah.
So you can have like, these things which it's money that's worth different amounts because of something attached to them, and these tokens are essentially the same thing. So the artists are like, oh, well, I'll tokenize my song and I'll sell the rights and my song or artwork as a non-fungible token, this thing that can't be copied but can be traded. So it's the brave new world of crypto collectibles that I've been talking about for a while.
The brave new world of crypto collectibles. Say it 3 times fast. Crypto collectibles,
NFT. That's the
NFT, non-fungible token.
We're going to hear so much about these in the future because you can tokenize anything. You can tokenize a baseball card. You can tokenize stocks, which is a big thing. So people can trade stocks on crypto exchanges. But you can tokenize an interview, a voice clip, anything you want to sell. You can make it scarce. Only one of them, right? And the scarcity is what drives the price, because Grimes is only releasing this artwork and selling it to one person, and that person can trade it so they can invest in something that's hers, that's unique.
Is it like a famous painter doing a special artwork, and there's only one of that artwork, and so this has this special price?
The idea is, how do we take these digital commodities that anyone can just copy 1 billion times and make them so that they're unique again?
Okay, because digital commodities can be copied as many times as you want. When I say digital, they're online, whatever. But now we're trying to make them scarce.
That's what the artists are trying to do, just to try and get money, because the
music industry is very difficult to make money. Yeah, especially in Australia.
And if someone could just copy your artwork, then why would anyone pay for it? The thing is, well, okay, I own it now. have tokens signed by she was given that to me, if I'm right. So there's basically like check the blockchain and see, oh, this is real. I can see that Grimes gave this to you, and I can look at the numbers and see that it's actually Grimes' artwork.
Yeah.
Right? So it provides this what do they call it? Provenance, right? Which is basically like a chain of ownership. So when we think about provenance in food, we might be like, oh, I want to watch the food go from the farm to my table.
Okay.
I want to know which farm it was on, what they were fed, who killed it or grew it, who prepared it, and who shipped it to my house, all these things. Yeah. So blockchain's great for tracking provenance, right? Because I can look at the blockchain and say, oh, okay, like 1, 2, 3, all the way back to the farmer. This cow got a crypto token. The cow was tokenized when it was born, and I can follow it all the way along. Mm-hmm. But artists are like, okay, let's tokenize all of our artwork. And this has been around for a little while, but with this new research into cryptocurrency, people are doing it. Now, it costs about $700 to mint your own coins. Okay. And once they've been minted, you can make 100,000 of them, and then tokenize them.
How funny! Yeah, what a name for a word for that. Yeah.
You have to pay the fee for the miners to create the tokens.
Okay. Miners, they're like, but they're actually like,
that's it. There's actually just something there waiting for their computer to basically turn over. The thing is, though, other services are minting 1 million tokens and then selling the service of giving away pre-minted tokens to people, right?
Right. Okay.
Which is basically like some service that says they're basically like digital real estate agents or something like that.
And sorry, and is the connection still okay, Eden? Please just let us know. Still alright, just send us a little
no
message.
More counterfeit, that's right, until quantum computers come in. So
and Ethereum fees are too high for most people, and also I think for most people, Kane, it's just hard for the average person. How would I know how to even do that? And creating just buying cryptocurrency and having crypto wallet is very difficult for someone non-techie like myself as well. So NFTs, right? I read that they use just maybe it's the servers, but they're going to use a lot of power and a lot of energy to keep them sort of going.
Yeah, they don't have to, but they do.
It goes back. It was fine until you asked, but it's okay again.
Yeah, well, so yeah, okay. A lot of the work.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in again. By the way, it's been awesome. It's been a really good discussion this week. So basically, with crypto, there's like different ways that they can do the blockchain. And one of the big ways is proof of work, which means that your computer has to do a certain amount of arbitrary calculations. The blockchain just says this is how hard the problem is to solve, and the computers have to go and just solve it. But you can make it easier or harder. But to slow the blockchain down, they make it harder and harder and harder. But that creates scarcity, so it makes the cryptocurrency worth more, which means that more people try and join to do the computing, which creates this thing where, like, at one point of the height of crypto in 2017, I paid quite a lot of money to do a transaction to mint my own coins, my own NFTs at one point, which are gone now, but
you had your own NFTs.
Formatted my computer, they're gone. The thing is, I use the same amount of power as an average person in Ireland would use in a year. Something insane like this, right? Something absolutely nonsense.
Because the computer process is so complex, they're just really using a lot of energy.
And it doesn't have to be that way. There's a lot of other ways. Proof of stake. There's a whole bit of different blockchains that don't use a whole lot of power. It's a problem we created for ourselves.
Okay.
And we can fix it. There's already IOTA, Internet of Things currency. It's got awesome blockchains that don't need this at all. They're very, very lightweight, and I fully support them.
Yeah, we like things that don't use as much energy and power. Captions are helpful, though. I wonder if one day we can get automatic captions happening at the same time. I don't know about that, Eden.
I would also, in future, I'm 6 weeks in to learning Auslan.
Oh, how cool. Could you do that as we speak?
Soon. I want to be able to speak or interpret as we go. But in the future, I would like.
That's fantastic. I love to see it. That's so cool. And I'll be sitting here like an idiot, like,
Join. A lot of people joined because of COVID. We got the live translators, so everyone's like, I want to learn Auslan. I've been watching
wonderful.
it. You know, they're like, oh, you know, COVID causes closures, and there's all these cool science, and it's a very emotive language. So,
wow. How do you say COVID? Left hand.
I can't teach. I'm not
left
allowed to
hand
teach because I'm not
fist.
deaf, but COVID.
Left hand is a fist, and then it's coming to the right. The right hand is coming around to the right.
So you can only teach if you're deaf.
Okay.
Which is really interesting.
Fair enough.
We'll actually speak one time. I'm about to write an essay about deaf people and transhumanism.
Cool. Now, shall we start to wrap it up? Let's just reply to some comments and then wrap it up, I believe.
We've got an hour. There's one thing we haven't covered that we had to cover, though.
Yeah, sure. Which one was that?
Life extension.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Emily actually asked about life extension, and Devon knows Liz. And Liz has a company called BioViva who just sent out an email today saying if you have a dog in the United States that's a Labrador or a German Shepherd, send us a sample of their DNA and we will do a check to see how long their telomeres are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have we talked about telomeres?
We briefly talked about, we have on our very first session. So they're something that exists within all of us. They help to signal how long our lifespan is. Like they start to die off from 25 onwards. And the whole idea about extending life is, well, one of the focuses is on telomeres, because if we can try and improve them or fix them, then maybe that's one of the ways we can try and extend our life.
And we did it with mice.
We did it with mice.
We extended their telomeres, and the mice who had extended telomeres, if they're middle-aged, live 26% longer.
26% longer.
So right now in Australia, our life expectancy is 82. That means average life expectancy goes to 104.
And the longest lifespan we have recorded is about 125.
There's a natural limit that basically says you can't go past this, which we think has to do with stem cells, right? When the last stem cells go, you basically, that's the last of the clock ticking down, right? So BioViva represent, so basically, this is really cool. So we've done this before. I started a company with my mate Tim. We're like, how do we get everyone to have implants? Like, let's put them in cows. And when the cows start being like, you get a mobile phone message, beep, beep, Bessie has cancer, and you're like, far out. I wish I had this for me. Or
that's
my
interesting
kids.
Marketing now.
Commercialized phase 0 trials, right, on animals. So Liz is like, let's have a look at telomeres in dogs, and you know what they're going to do?
Wow.
Life extension in dogs.
Life extension in
and
dogs.
Once, soon your dog might live till 60 or 80 years, and then you're like, wait, ScoMo government, I want life extension. I want to live like, as long as dogs. They're older than us now.
If anyone deserves it though, I think we can all agree it's dogs. More than humans, the dogs get to have whatever they want.
What about overpopulation? The dogs will never die, and there'll be so many dogs because
they deserve it. It's great. I think dogs are heavenly angels. So they're beautiful souls that are nothing but joy and love. So yeah.
And there's another technology that we were talking about, which is what happens if the dog happens to die. There's a service in America that will bring them back.
Yes.
Or will they bring them back?
What is it? Cryology?
There's the cloning.
Yeah, cloning.
And then there's the cryogenics. So cryogenics is the storage of the body, and then when you want to bring them back, you take the sample, you put it inside embryo, and then have a clone of your dog. And Barbara Streisand has 2 of her dogs are clones. 2
little clones running around the house.
This is what the
When will you get it, Meow? As in,
I'm so fucking down for telomerase extension. My goal is before I'm 40.
Yes. Now there is a danger with telomerase extension.
Yes.
Maybe. It's a maybe. It could increase chances of cancer.
So it's actually one of the 12 hallmarks of cancer is that telomerase gets switched back on, and it immortalizes cells. So if you want your cells to live forever in your lab, you immortalize them by switching telomerase on.
Right.
The thing is, though, if we want to live forever, we have to kind of take that chance. What you have to do is be able to stop cancerous cells, right? So it's just one of the many things that causes cancer, but it's pretty important.
I love shut up and take my money, Morris.
It sounds like Fry's dog Seymour. Yeah, so he was frozen for a long time, and potentially we could bring him back. There's no pet cloning service in Australia, so I actually want to start a pet cloning service in the next 5 years.
Wow.
I think it'd be really cool.
And you've got a perfect name for it.
What's that?
Meow's cloning service.
Meow's cloning service. I was thinking there was one called...
Ooh.
Perpetuate.
Oh, perpetuate.
But I think there's something
Great
in
puns.
repet or something like this, right? There's something there. Feel free to drop your names even after. If you're watching this tomorrow or next week, please, if you have cool names for like the Clone Pet company, please let us know.
Not repeat, repet. I don't know. It's so bad. I don't know.
Perpetuate, I thought was kind of cool. So Liz actually says there's no increased risk for cancer. So we've actually seen in mice there wasn't an increase in cancer. It was a very small study sample size, n equals 26.
Still thinking about
but it costs a lot. How much? Okay. How much would you pay if you had a really good dog? How much would you pay to bring it back? You said they're angels. How much is an angel worth? I asked you last week.
Oh,
wow. We're down to the line. Money. What can you be bought for? What's your pet? What's your pet worth in dollar cold hard cash?
How much would I go up? Oh god. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of like assets. Like people pay a lot of money for assets. Is it like is it? Oh god.
How much is your dog worth?
Oh.
Because you pay a lot with the vet, and that's the decision about whether you put the animal down or not.
Yeah.
Well, I love the dog, but do I $6,000 love my dog?
I really don't know.
Would you do it for free?
Yeah, for free. Yeah.
Would you do it for $100?
I like your system. You really get an answer out of me. Okay, yeah, do it for 100. Would I do it for 200? Yes, I would do it for 200.
Let's say a purebred dog. Let's say a new dog. This is probably the insurance kind of way of looking at it, right? Mm-hmm. A new purebred's between $4,000 and $6,000.
Yeah.
So let me ask it like this: if the cost of cloning it exceeded the cost of a new dog, essentially the dog is written off.
Yeah.
Would you pay it for sentimental reasons?
Oh. And what are you thinking? I'm thinking.
I'm going to block out how much it is. Peter spoiled it to say how much it's going to be. So I'm going to have to look.
I feel like people do have so much emotions, attached to their pets, and I think that there are rich people who pay a lot of money. I feel like, tens of thousands of dollars, definitely.
Yeah.
People would easily pay that. I have a friend whose dog was his life. I think he would have paid up to like $50,000.
Yeah.
So
a dog is $50,000.
Wow.
From Perpetuate, I think they're called. But a cat's only fucking $25,000.
Cats. Why cats?
Half price.
Half price for a cat.
I don't realize it's fucking complicated, right? That they do literally thousands of attempts.
Yeah.
And from 123 viable embryos, they got one dog out.
Oh.
123 were put in 2 dogs.
Okay.
And out of that, one came about. So $50,000 is actually a fucking bargain, right?
Yeah.
And often you can convince a university to do it. And they're doing it using pretty much the same technology as we used to make Dolly.
Okay.
Fun fact. Do you know why Dolly the sheep, the first cloned animal, was called Dolly?
Why was she called
Guess who she was named after?
Dolly Parton.
She was indeed.
She was named after Dolly Parton.
Why was she named after Dolly Parton?
Why?
So when they cloned her...
Because she's also an angel who
I love Dolly Parton.
She's a real cool... obviously, she's a famous musician, country singer in America, but she also has a fantastic charity, books for children, and she's just
helping out with COVID.
And she's helping out with
scientific research.
She's such a cool woman.
I love Dolly Parton. And what she probably was most well known for, though. What's the joke with Dolly Parton? She has a very specific look.
Oh, okay.
She tries to look cheap. And that's big hair, big lips, and big boobs.
Oh.
Now, to clone Dolly the sheep, they took a fertilized embryo and then they took the nucleus out, which is all the DNA that makes it specific. So it's kind of like a blank cell now.
Okay.
And then they took a cell from the animal they wanted to clone, took the DNA out of that and put it inside, and then in a very Frankenstein-esque maneuver, shock it with a bit of electricity, and it starts dividing until it becomes a clone.
Electricity is what it takes.
A little bit of shock to get it going, but the cell they took from the original mother, memory cell.
Memory cell, So...
Dolly. After the boobs of the mum.
Is that the real reason?
That's the real reason. Yeah.
What a funny
Scientists have
story.
a sense of humour. She's from boobs, so we'll name after Dolly Parton.
That's funny.
So anyway, would you pay $50,000 to clone your dog?
Probably. I don't have that money, so no.
I would not pay $50,000 to clone my dog. You know what I would do?
No.
Build my own lab, clone the dog myself.
Yeah, well,
Clone 100 dogs.
if you can, you should. No, that's not actually a good rule. If you can, you should. That's a terrible rule. But I understand what you're saying.
If you can, it's legal.
Yeah.
So what we do is we get a boat.
We get a boat.
We take the dogs out to international waters.
Oh,
Right?
let's thought this through.
That's it.
Yeah.
Put lasers and floaties on their back.
Lasers and floaties on their back.
And if anyone comes, we have an army of cloned dogs that can go and attack the invaders.
But in water, like, what are they going to do? They're just going to be
Depends on
like,
who
they're
they're
going to
fighting
lick them. They're going to...
Shoot them with lasers.
Wait, and what's the purpose of this?
To fight off the law. I don't know.
Okay, this is just...
Anyone who tries and stops us, right?
Okay.
But I guess it's about, maybe they're really cute and no one wants to attack because we've got 100,000 cute little puppies.
I wouldn't tag. I'd be like, take my money and take whatever you need, the little puppies.
Take the DNA and clone some more.
You can't do more.
Is it ethical to clone animals as well? Like, if you had your dog and it kind of died, is it okay to like just be like, well, I loved it once, probably will love it again, let's give it another go? Because they don't come back with the same personality, right?
They don't?
No. Well, not
dominant personality
well,
traits?
there was a case of a prize-winning bull, and I studied this at uni because I did genetics, right? And it was really friendly, and everyone loved it, so they cloned it. And it came back, and it was an absolute cunt. It
came back from hell, and it was like, why did you bring me back?
Pretty much, it was like Buffy season 7, right? So it came back not quite right.
Wow, scary.
So, maybe you have this cute little dog that loves everyone. Oh, he's not like other pit bulls. And then when you bring it back, it's like other pit bulls. Or I shouldn't say that. Like whatever bad species of dog. Or not species, breed of dog. Let's check these comments. Do we have to run? How are we going for time?
Wow, we've been on,
11.
so it's 9:09. So look, I mean, I'm happy to sort of start wrap things up, and then our camera's just fixed itself, and when we leaned in, so that worked for next time. Sempiternal.
This is a cool name. Afterpay for dog revival.
Yeah.
So basically, as long as you're happy with the dog, you keep paying it off the longer it's alive. Maybe we could hook it up with their pet insurance. So if your dog dies, we'll just bring it back.
Business side. Let me get my business plan. We got to write it.
Patent pending. You're all under NDA. You signed it. You accepted the NDA cookies when you logged on.
By viewing his face, you are signed the
agreement.
I need to
put it, a tattoo. By viewing this, you have signed the thing.
Yeah, totally. Let's just jump into some comments. I think let's wrap it up.
Dasatinib. What is this dasatinib? Cryojakes. What is dasatinib? The cryptic message.
We've got cryptic comments.
Chance of error in cell production. It is, James.
Error in cell production, yeah.
Chance of error is reasonable. I would agree with that. Most of our cells don't divide though. So it's most of our cells just kind of stick around.
Yeah, they just
once
hang
they're full
out.
grown, they just kind of stop, right? That's why telomerase gets switched off at 25 because you're not really growing anymore. You're just replacing skin, hair, some hair, not less in my case, the mouth lining, blood cells, but like your muscles, like your brain cells. Once they're grown, they don't need to divide anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And corneal cells, they just stay. The corneal cells you're born with, the corneal cells you die with, right?
Okay.
And it's like this is like third year bio. When I got there, I'm like, like you start like people are like, evolution is this thing that happens progressively over time. Third year, you realize no, that's not how evolution works. It happens real quickly, like one generation.
Are you serious?
Future evolution talk.
Please talk about that. I'm so interested in that. I really assume that evolution happens at a very, very slow pace.
We didn't fucking touch on the politics. There's some very interesting politics, but we might touch on that next week. We'll see how things go. You're on notice, Australian government. Get your shit together before next week, otherwise we're going to talk about it. Do I get a marketing job at this clinic? Sure, Emily, you're hired.
Emily.
Head of marketing. Does that even queer?
And we just got a little award saying we had received 100 messages today. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Messages. I really appreciate that.
Senolytics.
Son of a bitch, I'm in. That's
Senolytics. Senolytics are another type. So I love talking about gene therapies to cure telomerase, to cure telomeres, right? So one of the things is this vaccine is a type of gene therapy. So I'm like, why don't we make a fucking vaccine against old age that just temporarily extends our telomeres, right? Instead of it being permanent.
Okay, just temporarily, and then we just Let's do a live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you tune in for that? Can you also give us some topics that you guys would be interested in hearing about? I mean, we have to really probe Meow's brain. It's got so much in here.
We got so much good stuff we can have conversations about. We'd love to hear during the week what you guys want to hear. A few people contacted me this week about stuff they wanted us to talk about. I'm just going to talk super quickly. Senolytics are a class of drugs that get rid of your senescent cells. So there's some old cells that kind of are zombie cells, right?
Senescent cells.
Yeah, so senescence is like chilled out or like old age.
C or S?
Senescent. So it's senolytic.
Senolytic.
So what happens is basically sometimes cells are going to go cancerous. And the body says, well, actually, you should probably commit suicide. And then those cells go to commit suicide, but something stops them. Because this cancerous cells are trying to always evade, right? They're like a virus of your own body.
Wow.
So the immune system goes, okay, you know what? If you're not going to commit suicide, I'm going to make you just go into G0 senescence, right? You don't...
G0 senescence.
It's a cell cycle. And you don't divide, but you don't die. And the cancerous cell's like, fair trade. And it becomes what's a senescent cell. And your body accumulates these over time. And they secrete toxins, actual toxins, to the cells around. So senolytics are a class of drugs that clear these out.
Wow, that sounds so great.
Can give you 10% extension of life.
I've never heard of them about before.
You've probably taken some.
Really? What were they called?
Azithromycin.
Azithromycin. That's a antibiotic?
It's an antibiotic.
Antibiotic.
There's a couple other antibiotics too, doxycycline.
Yeah.
And these so, and what's cool about them, these are already legal.
I used to take doxycycline for years for my skin.
You might live forever.
Yeah.
And metformin.
I don't know if I want it.
I mean, it's not senolytic. It's involved in some of David Sinclair's research, which Emily was talking about, which was about some of the ways that cells process energy. We can actually boost some of the cofactors like NAD and NAD+, these kind of things. Nicotinamines or some shit like this.
Nicotinamide.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. And basically, there's some evidence that says it's pretty good. But like, I've looked at some of the evidence. It's nowhere near as good as fucking telomerase extension therapy. Okay. Like, that is the shit, right?
Have you taken NAD+ before? And David Sinclair is the Australian scientist who sort of discovered and... He's like the hero, the champion. Yeah, the champion of NAD+. I've taken it for a few months.
How'd you feel?
I didn't feel any different.
But where'd you get your supplements?
But I did live another 100 years.
Been sitting on a throne built out of NAD supplements.
And I had the really good quality ones. I had like compound chemist ones, so they're really high quality.
So the thing is, like, how do you trust where they come from? Right? Here's some of my mates got them from India, China, and they don't have the ability to work out what's actually in there because they could just sell you salt, and how would you know, right? So I'm like, what about if I make it myself? It's not illegal. Your solution to everything is I'll make it myself. You know, I can trust myself. Yeah, you can trust yourself. I think. Tune in next time.
That is an amazing note to end on. Oh my god.
Okay, so we'll just go through the last comments. Conjunction. Boom. Okay, yeah. Life extension, in short, is going to be a multi-pronged approach. We want to eat everything we can, like senolytics, telomerase extension, David Sinclair's magical NAD+, and just smash like 500 supplements a day. You'll live forever. I learned really cool sign in sign language.
Hey.
Whatever. Ready?
Yeah. That was so cool. Oh,
and you can do like, what you can do. So good, isn't it? It's like, and it looks like whatever, doesn't it? Like,
how cool! It's got the attitude that comes with whatever.
The sass.
I love it.
Overcome a cancer risk. Oh yeah, so we'll talk. We might talk about that a bit next time. And make it have the clip from Reanimated. Be like, you won't have to worry about this. Very good. It's amazing. Thanks, Peter. I've loved speaking with you. We've been having some good conversations and riffing off each other on Facebook this week. It's been fun. Been taking metformin, super cool. Highly recommend it. I love it. Jeanette, I'm interested in talking about cell energy and overlook state. Mitochondria is the warp core of the cell.
You're changing it up.
I am. It's a quote from season 6 or season 7 of Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
They asked Naomi Wildman, what is mitochondria? And she goes, mitochondria is the warp core of the cell.
Warp core.
The warp core. That's it. Because I'm living in the future. The future. That's my Auslan for future. Can anyone tell me the least shit yet affordable brand of resveratrol? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's in cheap red wine.
Resveratrol. Yeah, but it's in cheap red wine.
Any aging street gang, I think we should do it.
The anti-aging street gang. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm already an NAD+. I'm already living longer than everyone, so
let's do it. Every live stream. We'll do a tiny little section on anti-aging.
Would you guys be keen for that? That sounds really cool.
We might ask Liz or David to come on and join us and answer the questions.
That'd be so interesting, right?
Yeah.
This is a multi-billion-dollar industry that people spend so much money on, for supplements and
they have for a very long time.
For a long time.
The Philosopher's Stone in China was the potion of fountain of youth, right? It was
elixir of life.
That's it. All the emperors wanted to know how to live forever. That was what they were keen on, right?
And also Indiana Jones in
which one?
The one.
It's Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade, and he's in the temple in Petra, which is named in Petra, in Jordan, and the elixir of life.
That's it.
That's where the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is.
That's right. This looks like the Holy Grail. Was Last Crusade or the Holy Grail? Indiana Jones, the Holy Grail.
I really wanted to be Indiana Jones when I grew up. Sorry. Anyway.
I still do.
I know.
Yeah.
When we grow up, maybe one day.
Rob grave sites. Archaeology. What do they call it? Discovering cultures, artifacts, and bring them back for the
adventures. The adventures. And then going back and being like, I'm a professor.
Can we talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy? Not today, but we will next week. I'll write it down.
Cool. Hyperbaric oxygen.
It's interesting.
Need to cover the young blood stuff in mice. They should
the young blood stuff. This is like Peter Thiel is like, give me the blood of virgins, right? And he is like a literal vampire.
Peter Thiel?
One of the co-founders of PayPal. Elon Musk's mate, but he's actually a literal vampire. We'll go into it.
Ooh, it sounds really interesting.
Blood and Thiel. We're going to put that down for next week. It's literally vampirism. Yeah.
Jeanette.
Super cool. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, everyone. Love you all.
Whatever.
Please get in contact. We're going to see if we can get some studio stuff in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, this setup's great, but maybe we could do better. Maybe.
I'd like to be able to flip, if we have cool news stories and stuff, it'd be cool to be able to play clips and just,
that would be cool.
Yeah.
And just send us any topics you're interested in. I'm so interested in all the sciencey stuff. I think that's just always interesting.
Technology, always good.
Science, pop culture, crimes.
Post-apocalyptic, what's happening?
Vampirism.
And
elixir of life.
Subscribe to us if you're on Twitch.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Subscribe to us if you're on YouTube. I'll end up changing the YouTube and the Facebook because it's going through my personal one at the moment. But we need a name. So if anyone comes up with a cool one, please do. Devin, you should totally tell Liz to come on our little show with us.
Yeah, Devin. Make it work.
Make it work. And we'll be on again.
And next Tuesday, we're always trying to do around like 7 to 8, 7:30 to 8:30. God, today's already 9. So it would be great if we could have a consistent time. I think that would also be easier for viewers.
Let us know what works well.
Yeah,
earlier or later is good because we can do either.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. Super appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys again next week.